No American will ever be able to seriously say again, my vote doesn't count.
24 hours after the polls closed, we still don't know who won, Al Gore or George Bush. And we will not know until tomorrow at the earliest. Florida today began an official vote recount. Bush leads Gore in the state by just a minuscule percentage, now down to about 1,400 votes total. Whoever wins Florida will pick up 25 electoral votes, topping the 270 needed to be elected president. But one more wrinkle in this story. Gore leads Bush in the nationwide popular vote by more than 100,000 ballots. So Gore could wind up winning the popular vote and losing the election in the Electoral College. None of this is assured. The candidates made their first public comment.
Many of us know that every 4 years on the Tuesday after the first Monday of November, the polls open up for the election of the President of the United States of America. Every free American citizen who has reached the age of 18 years old is able to go to his or her local election site and place their vote for which candidate they believe should be the next leader of the nation. This sounds as though it would be a simple process, and one would think that in a democracy such as the United States of America, the candidate who receives the majority of votes would be the winner. However, as many of us know, this is not the case. While America is a democracy, our current election system does not work off the popular vote exactly. In many cases, when we hold a vote, like in a school election, every student's vote counts equally. The tally is added up, and the person with the most votes wins. This is a form of direct democracy. The presidential election is quite different and relies on a system of representative democracy in an indirect election. In the beginning of the formation of our country, several of the founding fathers argued that the states needed to be equally represented based off their populations. Some states, like New York, are heavily populated, whereas states such as Rhode Island are much smaller and therefore have a lot less people. If we relied on direct elections, the amount of people voting for a presidential candidate in one state could severely outweigh the amount of people voting for a presidential candidate in several other states combined. In fact, James Madison, known as the father of the Constitution, warned against depending on a majority because sometimes a majority belief can actually be a dangerous thing. In order to ensure that our country's leader was chosen with respect to our federalist form of government, the founding fathers established a system of indirect elections that we now refer today as the Electoral College. Under Article 2 of the Constitution, each state has a set number of votes that will be awarded to the presidential candidate that receives the majority of the popular vote in that state. The Article 2 of the Constitution states that each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress, but no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. It sounds confusing, yes, but let's get down to this and see if we can make it a little simpler. Every state, based on the census, which is done every 10 years, is assigned a number of seats in the House of Representatives. New York, a larger state with a heavy population, is currently awarded 29 seats in the House. California receives 53, whereas states such as Rhode Island and Idaho only receive 2 seats each. Every state, regardless of size, also has 2 senators, and each of these seats counts as a vote. So, the amount of electoral votes a state gets is its number of seats in the House plus 2, 1 for each senator. The system is still a bit more complicated because it's not the senators nor the representatives that actually do the voting. Currently, there are 538 electoral votes from all states combined. That means that a presidential candidate needs to receive 270 votes in order to win the election. Electoral voters are chosen by their parties in each state. By order of the Constitution, the voters cannot be holders of public office. Most often, they will be members of a political party who are highly respected and rewarded for their dedication and loyalty to their party. When a person goes to the election box and places their vote for president, they are really voting for the group of electors pledged to that presidential candidate. If the candidate receives the majority of the votes in that state, the electors that have been chosen will meet at the state capitol and place their vote for the president to whom they have pledged their vote. So, if there are 100 citizens voting in New York for the president, and 51 choose Barack Obama, then the 31 electors pledged to vote for Barack Obama will meet at the state capitol in December to place their vote for president. Now, even though these voters are pledged to vote for Obama, they can still technically vote for John McCain. This is called a faithless elector. It has happened in the past, but is very unlikely, since the voters would be shunned by their party, and they are more often staunchly loyal to their party and their party's candidate. About half the states actually have laws that can also punish faithless electors. This system acts as a balance between states and popular vote. In some cases, such as the 2000 election between George W. Bush and Al Gore, the winner of the popular vote in the country will not actually win the majority of the vote in the Electoral College. Proponents of the current system would argue that this is the system working the way it was meant to work. Others would argue that the majority should rule. Now let's try to understand how this could happen in a smaller election. Imagine we're having an election for a senior class president. Out of 50 students in the senior class, 44 actually show up on election day. This year, we are going to use a representative, indirect election system where we vote in our classrooms, and each class will be assigned a number of representative electors based on each class's size. Let's say that we have 5 different classes. Class 1 has 13 students and will be awarded 5 electoral votes. Class 2 has 10 students and will be awarded 4 electoral votes. Class 3, 9 students, and they get 3 electoral votes. Class 4, 7 students, and they get 2 electoral votes. And finally, Class 5. They have 5 students, and they only get 1 electoral vote. Since the total number of electoral votes is 15, the winner must receive 8 of those votes. In Class 1, 9 students vote for Jimmy, and 4 vote for Jane. Jimmy will get 5 electoral votes because he won the majority of the popular vote. In Class 2, 1 student votes for Jimmy, and 9 vote for Jane. Now Jane will get 4 electoral votes because she won the majority in this class. In Class 3, 5 students vote for Jimmy, and 4 vote for Jane. Jimmy gets 3 more electoral votes, winning the majority of the popular vote in Class 3. In Class 4, only 1 student votes for Jimmy, and 6 voted for Jane. Jane gets 2 electoral votes, winning the majority of the popular vote in Class 4. And in Class 5, 2 students vote for Jimmy, and 3 vote for Jane. Jane gets 1 more electoral vote because she won the majority of the popular vote in Class 5. So let's do the tally. Jimmy has received a total of 18 out of 44 votes. Clearly not the majority of the popular vote, but since he won the bigger classes, he gets 8 electoral votes, winning the election. Now, Jane received the majority of the popular vote overall, with 26 out of 44, but got less electoral votes, only 7. Because she didn't win the majority of the popular vote in the bigger classes, which were worth more electoral votes. This is just what happened in the 2000 election with George Bush and Al Gore. Many people argue that because of this system, their vote doesn't count. But in Jane's case, if the 6 students who hadn't shown up to vote on election day were actually there and had been in Class 1, and each of those 6 students had voted for Jane, she would have won Class 1's electoral votes, giving her a total of 12 electoral votes, letting her win the election. She also would have had 32 out of the 50 popular votes. So as you can see, every vote truly does count. Well, there you have it. This is how the Electoral College works. So come election day, get out there and exercise your most important right as an American citizen and vote.